first lesson, I think emerging lessons from PPP, basically these PPP lessons, I think we have come a long way from saying PPP projects have been very investment specific. We said we want this particular crane of this particular name. I think we have come a long way from that. Today it has been made flexible. A lot of issues what we say have been already addressed. The minimum investments are not being stressed about that. But there's a slow tendency to say that revenue share is also so pretty much like guarantee, which is sort of acting as a deterrent. Now, there's also need to do the particular state board, need to do a lot of project development efforts. Let's do inventory claims, other claims in place before we do projects. Otherwise, the project development effort will be a waste. Next. Now, having said that, these are the summary recommendations. Port services involve a public utility, which are business to run, and it needs a logistic purpose. The objective of port policy should transform from creating capacity. We say we want, it has to move from, let's say, 248 million tons to 350 million ton capacity creation. Instead of that, let's create the objective should be fostering institutional reform regulatory reforms, and the market will take its own role in creating capacity. And service delivery would be left to private sector or corporatized public sector with a strategic investor in place. Next. Also, we need to build capable landlord ports. Capacity building. Although service delivery is the right sector, we need capable landlords. New PPP models should be attended, entry conditions should be there, tariff should be, determination should be integrated to economic regulation at a higher institutional level. While port business is free, port waters are not, consultancy code should be there. Then the moot point of discussion is that how do you develop projects? It's too much to expect the porters not only have the capacity to do projects develops, but also to have a connectivity focus and to have the mandate. Do we need a central body for that with the right skill set and the mandate for that? But still it doesn't negate that basically the porters have to develop a good project before you go to that. Next. I think it's very clear. One doesn't know the right scope of study, no one will be there. And that's why I made it. Thanks. We are free to take our questions. Actually,
this is Arvind Sagar from Hazira Port again. My question is very simple. From a perspective of a port developer, there are essentially three things important. The first thing is connectivity. The road and rail connectivity, that should be adequate and should be available from the beginning. It should not come 3 years later or 5 years later. That does not help a port developer. Second thing is there should be adequate amount of port backup area. I mean, for a reasonable size of port, and let us say 30 million tons or 40 million tons capacity, you require about 2,000 hectares of port backup area. 2,000 hectares is quite a lot of land. And third is, of course, finance, money going into the core port assets, creating berths, creating marine assets. So from port developers' point of view, the third part is easily achieved. Money is available. Construction, for acquiring tugs, all that is fine. But the connectivity is never there, the port backup area is not there. So all that leads to one conclusion, that port business is not good enough in present markets. The money will chase a high return opportunity. And looking at current scenario, port will always be behind, say, other infrastructure projects, other business opportunities. So under that scenario, how does the present policy, reforms, etc. Lead to maybe a better growth of port sector? I would think no. For next 2 years, you will not see any progress in port sector.
Thanks for the candid comments, actually. So I can only give you an analogy and explain that. Risk taking happens on both sides, government and as an investor. If you look at conventional Gujarat model, If you go back to the earlier days when people were one and left, none of us had any clue. And connectivity was a very vital issue. All the government did was created an extremely friendly, investor-friendly policy. Since the government did its part, the private investor did the last mile connectivity himself or herself. If you look at Nepal or Mudra, and what has happened is history. So to a certain extent, in certain cases, we need to take a business call depending on who is faster. And I do agree with your point that connectivity is an infrastructure issue. If government is not willing, then we have to find out the challenge before the private sector and invent a business model that will involve the other people and create business model like people want. That's a short answer. The long answer is yes. If you expect certain so-called miracles to happen because we said this in 2 years, I think we are expecting that. What we are basically trying to do is refocus the public. That's the objective of the exercise. I don't think we have the mandate beyond that. Refocus the efforts of the public sector from creating a competitive PSP-able facility to creating facilitative investments. What we are basically saying is, please divert your resources instead of competing. Please use your resources to create infrastructure, and that takes care of that. I think that should be in place. Now the next question is, how do we do it at central level, how do we do it at the state level? Probably the center and state can work together on that, so that we have a common policy platform between the center and the state. I'm not sure whether I addressed all the issues.
If I can try a simple another answer, we agree with you.
Sir, Komodo Banjo, consulting Maharashtra Maritime Board Government of Maharashtra. I think the mandate given for this seminar is for the World Bank to undertake a strategic port review and suggest remedial solutions to the extent that is possible. And the first thing that I think should bring to the notice of the World Bank official, that we must treat the patient which has got the major disease. The major disease in our case in the port sector is the high cholesterol level by way of siltation along the 7,500 coastline, and we require a lot of funding of that. You cannot expect the private developer to invest money for capital. The project becomes unviable. The average depth along the coastline, on the west coast as well as on the east coast, is about 3 meters. And you get about 10 meters at about 3 kilometers from the shoreline. But the first thing that needs to be addressed to solve most of our problems. So in the first session where it was asked what is the weakest link that determines, Shingal said it's the equipment. Well, I did disagree with him. It is the lack of depth in our nearer coastline. Now coming at a macro level, what needs to be done by the government, I always thought, is that first have professionals manning the ports at both at the chairman and the deputy chairman level. Have a separate cadre for the port sector. Separate cadre, the government has to initiate. Like you have the IRS or IAS, have a separate cadre. So right from the day he joins, he becomes effective and productive. And he becomes a multi-skilled worker. And that's one of the recommendations of the International Labour Organization, that is Geneva, to make a port worker a multi-skilled worker.
Commodore Bangal,
Yeah.
this is, can you ask a specific question on this? Because
Look, will you please continue? Will I please continue my point so you may who's asking?
Commodore Bangal.
Yeah, I'm giving for the notice of the World Bank from the government side. Okay, bring these points for the notice of the World Bank. The port organization, there needs to be set up a port authority of India, as you have an airport authority of India, which will control, govern, regulate all the multifaceted responsibilities of the port structure. This needs to be given a thought. And the port organizational structure, a lot of debate has been done. I think there is a need for the government in the first place to corporatize and remove the trust from port governance as the first step, and maybe later privatize the